We've been here for years. 4 years to be exact.
Man.
We've been doing under construction for 4 years.
Wow.
Since the summer of 2019. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Never thought we'd see this day, man. Hey, man, me and you keeping it rolling.
I think 4 years was also the last time the Panthers had a – nope, they didn't have one this season.
No.
Hornets?
No.
Charlotte FC didn't even exist.
Maybe it's our fault.
Yeah.
Have we had a winning season since we started this damn podcast?
No, we haven't.
We have not. Damn.
Wow.
That's depressing.
That's maybe it's us. Maybe we're jinxing our home teams. But it's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
We took a little summer break because there was nothing to talk about. Yes, and that includes NBA Summer League.
We don't care. Sorry.
Yep, there's nothing to talk about. But there's stuff to talk about now because the NFL is back.
It is back.
NFL preseason started last week.
Football.
And the Panthers were up yesterday against the revamped New York Jets.
I wouldn't say they were up, but
well, I mean, yeah, the Panthers. We remembered it was preseason. The Carolina Panthers forgot that it was preseason and chose not to show up. But there's some nuance. There's some nuance.
Kaz, I got a confession to you and under construction fans. Here's my admission. I ain't gonna call it confession. That's too serious. Here's my admission today. Today might be a tough show. Not because, maybe we're rusty. We haven't been on in a few weeks. Not because we don't have anything to talk about. But you know why it might be tough, man? Because the Panthers gave us a bunch of nothing yesterday. And hey, man, hey. Listen, it is not overreaction Sunday here, all right? Well, I want to make that very clear. But let's also be very clear that yesterday was a dud, to say the least.
So there's a saying in the NFL that preseason games don't count, but they matter. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's important to note that – hey, what's up, Willie? It's important to note that coaches and teams in the league, they always put preseason into the proper context.
Right.
Fans,
which is funny because Frank Reich actually said the exact same thing yesterday. Yeah.
Fans do not do that. We either see a win or a loss, whether it counts or matters or whatnot. They said the playbook was super vanilla. Essentially they were just out there. They just had players out there just to see what they were going to do in these game situations. The Panthers weren't trying to win yesterday, and I know to fans that seems crazy. Why wouldn't you try to win?
Right.
And I think the players are always going to try and win, but it takes more than that to win a game. Everyone's got to be on the same page. And I don't think the coaches or the staff are thinking, okay, we're going to go out there and win this game. They're like, we're going to go out there
and try stuff.
We're going to try stuff because you want to try it during the preseason.
Right.
You don't want to try it
during the
week
regular
1,
season.
right? So,
right.
Having said that, it would have been nice to win, if only to not hear the crying of Charlotte sports fans and sports fans in general about the Carolina Panthers.
Kaiser, we've been doing this long enough to know, not just in Charlotte, it's not exclusive to Charlotte, but in sports in general, overreactions are fun, right?
Right.
You're always going to get some overreactions from people, right? Here's one thing I don't believe I'm overreacting on. It's a small concern. But again, man, let's put this into its proper context, like we always say. I don't think anybody on the offensive line blocked anybody.
Anyway, they didn't block me.
Nobody.
I could have gone to the stadium, walked onto the field.
Security didn't block anybody. Nobody.
And sacked Bryce Young. And they've been like, oh, well,
we could have got free hot dogs.
Yes.
Like, nobody blocked anybody from doing anything yesterday. You understand what I'm saying? But here's my concern. And again, it's a small concern because, again, man, this is when you get this stuff out the way, okay? I don't want this offensive line to build bad habits because it's way too critical everybody has spoken ad nauseum about how small Bryce Young is. I'm not going to get into that. But we know the dude's stature, right? And we know he's a rookie. We know he's a young quarterback. So with that being said, let's not get into these bad habits for not blocking for the young fella. And I believe the offensive line. Now, if there's one silver lining out of this horrible performance yesterday, is that we saw the offensive line actually had a players-only offensive line meeting after the game because they realized how bad it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's get this out the way now. I'm glad that they are nipping this in the bud now, so let's get rid of these habits before they spill over into the regular season. I don't think that's quite an overreaction because it's pretty critical that we got a block for this young fella this year, man.
Absolutely. That is the weak point of the entire team. Yeah. And it has been for years.
Right.
The offensive line.
To be fair, maybe the last 6 or 7 games last season, they got it together. Right. You know what I mean? They performed very well.
The starting right guard's missing.
Yeah. Right. Austin Corbett's not there.
But I am glad they had this meeting because I'm glad the players realized, okay, we played like shit.
Right.
And that's the reason that we lost this game.
Yeah.
And for the players to identify that and say, okay, we need to do something about it is great.
That's encouraging. Even though it was horrible, at least they had the wherewithal to do that yesterday.
Personally, I think that if your team, not just any unit, but if your team plays extremely well during the preseason, that's a bigger red flag than the opposite. Because what do you know what to work on?
Right.
If let's say the O-line had, the best block win rate in the league yesterday. What does that really prove? Can we then say, oh, we got our offensive line,
and not even that, man? Because we all know you don't know what the other team is showing you anyway. You know what I mean? Like this is why it's preseason. You're not playing against number ones all the time, and even if you are playing against number ones, the number one user probably has 5 or 6 guys missing from the number one unit. So it's.
And thank you, Willie. The Jets do have a legitimate defense. The Jets, that has been kind of their focus for the last few years. If you remember when we played them, 2 seasons ago in the opener?
Yeah.
That was a close game because their defense was eaten. So I'm not that concerned about the offensive line performance in game 1 of the preseason.
Right.
Week 1?
No.
Okay. All right.
It matters. It counts.
Yep. That game counts. And if you don't play, and if you don't keep Bryce, let me say this as well, though. However, concerning Bryce Young, we only saw him 1 series. He only passed 6 times. He was 4 for 6 for 21 yards.
Right. Took a good little pop.
Yeah, but I thought he looked poised.
Thinking the same thing.
I mean, I thought the pressure did not seem to bother him
at all.
Right. And I think with a more open playbook,
right,
he would have. The offensive line is not going to be as much of an issue because he can be able to make plays. There were some times where, he's looking down the field waiting for the play to develop, and there's just no time for it to develop because it's not a complex play. It's essentially, you guys just go out there and run some routes kind of thing. That's not going to happen during the regular season.
Yeah. And, we all didn't know exactly how much of Bryce Young we were going to see. But before the game, the only thing I wanted to see was how calm and how poised was Bryce Young going to be in this situation.
Right.
And as far as that goes, that's A+, even though it's a very small sample size. Let's be clear about that. I mean, he didn't flinch. Even under duress, even when it got bad, even when he got hit, he got right back up and did his job again. And that's what we want to see from Bryce Young going into the season, man.
Let me also say this. This is more for Hornets fans or Charlotte sports fans in general that follow both the Hornets and the Panthers. If you were ready to write Brandon Miller off for Summer League, you better jump off the Matt Corral. You better jump off that train, off the bridge into a canyon. Because Mans looked terrible yesterday. But see, here's the thing. There's some context and nuance to that, right?
But
the offensive line was terrible.
I was going to say, are we being fair to Matt Corral? Because he had the same problems. You know what I mean?
That's my point. If you're going to say, well, we got to be fair to Matt Corral, you got to be fair to Brandon Miller.
Because, look, Brandon Miller had a situation where he was in a very unorganized situation. It was barely professional.
It wasn't even preseason.
Exactly. Matt Corral was trying to pass behind the offensive line of me and you and Rodney. You understand?
Matt Corral was under some fire. I will say this. I'm going to give him some props here. He went 15 for 22 for 126. He did throw an interception, but 4 sacks. And he did the best that he could. Being under fire
in that situation
all day.
Right.
So I think actually I see that as a positive.
And look, and he was out there with the 2s and the 3s. He was out there with some of the guys who we're not ever going to see again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have I'm positive. I have a positive outlook about our quarterback stable, at least, and the offense. If that line, of course, if the line's terrible, the team's going to be terrible.
It's not going to matter. Right.
Yep, it's not going to matter. If the line gets it together, and if the line can at least be serviceable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they need to be like the 93 Cowboys, but they just need to be solid and serviceable. Don't be bottom of the league, and the Panthers will be just fine on offense.
I just have one quick side note here. I'm not going to go into detail about this. This is the last season I want to see Cam Irvin and Michael Jordan on this team. I'm just going to –
yeah, let's just –
I don't need to see anymore.
There's a lot of people. This is the last – why is Ian Thomas – why is Ian Thomas been on the team 42 years?
And hadn't caught a pass yet.
Yes. He caught one pass. Remember, it was a fumble pass from Cam Newton like eight years ago or something.
And that was his highlight.
Yes.
Why is he still on this team? Why is Cam Irvin still on this team? I hate talking about my Florida State guys, but why is he still on this team? Why?
I don't understand.
Whatever. Hey, man.
I don't get it.
Any highlights from you?
If you go to the NFL YouTube channel and type in find the highlights video for Jets versus Panthers, it's only 4 minutes long. And the only highlight is a Bryce Young completion.
Oh, man.
That's the only Panthers highlight.
I'll say this much, man. We've been on the Frankie Louvu bandwagon for, at least the last season, man. Hey, Frankie Louvu forced a fumble. He was out there for a couple of downs, man. We know we're going to get out of him anyway, right? I think at this point we're good with him. Here's one thing I did like. I like the Sam Franklin interception. I like that because Sam Franklin is always the guy, special teams guy, which he is an amazing special teams player. But I like the fact that he went out there and made a play.
Yeah.
So I think that's encouraging, man. Even though we probably won't be seeing him a lot on the field other than special teams, it was good to see that.
Your special team guy are probably the most underrated players on the team.
Right.
They can change the game.
Yeah. And Sam Franklin's probably the best gunner in the NFL, man. Like he's good.
Yeah, easily. By the way, Johnny Hekker for MVP.
As always.
Like always. He's the best player on the team.
Best player during the Matt Rule era.
5 punts, 231 yards, and a 1 in the 20 with a long of 60. I mean, that guy's like super consistent.
Yeah.
No field goals or extra points, though. No kicking stats because we put up a big fat 0.
Yep. Kicker had a day off yesterday.
What you think about the 3-4? Now the Panthers played a mix of the 3-4 and the 4-3. Basic. It was very, very base defensive fronts. I'm talking like they
didn't try to trick anybody.
Nah, they came out in base coverage, and that was what they ran. And it was like they were singing what they had in each package. I know it's preseason, but we still can't stop the run.
Let me say this. I'm going to put it to you like this. For the guys that were out there, that's very important for me to say. For the guys that we actually saw out there in the 3-4, if I had to put a grade on it, I'd put a C- on it, honestly, man.
Okay.
I think C- is a fair grade because on one hand, hell, they were on the field all day. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, man, there was some sloppiness. When I mean sloppiness, there's a lot of missed tackles and missed assignments yesterday. And again, this is when you get that stuff out the way. Hey, let me say one thing, Kaiser. Jamie Robinson, you are not going to embarrass me this season, buddy. I'm high on you. All right? Jamie Robinson, let's get it together, buddy, because he did not have a great showing yesterday. He was the poster child for what I just said. Missed tackles, missed assignments. Let's get it out the way.
This is the first game for a lot of these guys that matters. Even if it doesn't count, it matters. And, some of them are nervous. And
yeah, no doubt.
I mean, it's too hard to put anything in any stock into the first preseason game where it's just backyard football.
And look, man, I know somebody's going to come at us and say, man, you're providing excuses, but let's be real about this.
Because they'll say, well,
Exactly. This is all new to Carolina. Everything literally is new. New coach, new system, new defensive scheme,
new quarterback.
Everything is new. Everything, new players, all that stuff. So
okay, so this is a good question. If the O-line, D-line play like this versus the Giants next week, we'll still say the preseason. We say we have an issue. So as preseason goes on and your ones get more snaps,
right.
Yes, then you become more concerned over play because you're starting to see them and the coaches start injecting actual weekly game plans, offensive, defensive schemes. Week 2, I feel like if they play poorly, you have more of a concern than week 1, but it's still not like this is when you want your team to play bad.
Right.
You want them to play poorly in the preseason.
It sounds crazy to say,
but
if you're a coach, you're like, now I have something to work with. And I have something I can tell my players. This is what you need to work on.
Right.
I know that sounds crazy, but it is what it is.
But it's true. You have to. You're gonna have to look in the film and shore up these deficiencies that you see. If, like I said, like for instance, the Jets they don't have any valuable film to watch from this week. None. Because they were just dominant against, twos and threes. They've got nothing to watch. Meanwhile, the Panthers have a lot
everything to watch
to go back and say, hey guys, here's what we did. Look at this. Look at these gap. Look at this gap discipline. Look at all, So having said that, I would think the expectations next week would just be to play with a little more effort. And then it's easier to say what our deficiencies on talent and skill set are.
Funny you say that, because throughout the broadcast, Steve Smith and Taylor Zarzour kept mentioning the fact that the coaching staff kept imploring the players to do what is called, and I may be messing this up, but something to the effect called maybe TNT, something to the effect of make plays that don't require talent. Just effort.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's what they were wanting to see yesterday. And again, if I had to put a grade on that, that's a C-. Again, missed tackles. But again, let's get this stuff out the way now.
Right. Yeah. Like, if you have, tackling discipline, which is a fundamental thing that every defensive player in the NFL should have. Yeah. Sometimes the guy you're trying to tackle is just better than you. And there's nothing you can do. But if you just whiff on the tackle because you have poor discipline, that's another thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I next week with the Panthers, I want to, particularly in the trenches, I just want to see better effort, better discipline, better fundamentals.
Which is at the beginning of the show, which is why I say, man, it's a concern, and you want to get these bad habits out the way because you don't want to start getting your ass kicked in the trenches going into the season, because a little problem can turn into a big problem very fast.
Plus, we know it takes offensive lines have to gel
and communicate.
This is new. Okonwu is, this is going to be a big season for him.
He's got to take a jump. I mean, we're talking about a second-year guy, but we're super reliant on him now, man. So
I feel like the Panthers have the talent on the O-line, and it may not be elite talent, but
it should be good enough.
It's good enough, to roll a serviceable offense out there. This ain't gonna be 2016, y'all.
Yeah.
But I feel the talent is there, and the preseason is time to shore up those deficiencies. And yes, I'd rather go 0-4 in the preseason and 12-5 in the regular season, just like the 2003-2004 Panthers, in which they did not win in fact, they looked absolutely terrible in the preseason, and then went on a tear in the regular season. A lot of that was because of Jake Delhomme,
right?
But that's how it goes sometimes. So,
absolutely.
Who's your MVP? I mean, come on, we do this we gotta give it to somebody.
This week. On the offensive side of the ball, I'll go Matt Corral, just because he performed the best under the worst circumstances. So I'll go Matt Corral offensive. Defensive, I'm gonna go Amari Barno.
Had the only sack and the only QB hit and the only pressure.
Right. I think he was the most consistent guy out there. So those are my two MVPs, I guess.
Yeah, I'll go Matt Corral. And on defense, I'll go, I don't know. I just pick a name out of the hat. Keith Taylor Jr. This could be, we ragged on him a lot last season.
Yeah.
But this could be a season for him where, like, hey, you got to be at least solid.
It might have to be
right. And he was fairly solid yesterday, given the circumstances. I felt like, but if you might have to step up, because we don't know if Dante Jackson is going to be healthy.
Right.
We don't even know if J.C. Horn going to be healthy.
Right.
So the secondary, Actually, the secondary might be a bigger concern than the offensive defensive line.
But let me be clear about the secondary. I think the main concern with the secondary is health, because I think if they stay healthy, they're fine. But if they're not, there's not a lot of depth. Prime example was the Bucs game last year, which we don't need to talk about that anymore. But if I had my one criticism for the offseason with Fitterer, I don't think they did enough to improve the depth of the secondary this offseason. That's my one criticism of the Panthers this offseason.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about. Actually, well, let's give our predictions for next week before I talk about this next topic. We play the Giants next week.
All right, I expect a better effort, man. It's so hard predicting preseason games, but
how much do you think Bryce will play? He's going to get more than one series.
Here's my question, and this is what I truly don't know this. There's always a dress rehearsal game every preseason. But
normally the third game, although it's different. There's only three preseason games now. So
I'm going to guess. This is a total guess that the dress rehearsal is next week.
And then he doesn't play
the fourth quarter.
Right, but does he play at all the third preseason game?
No, I don't think so. I think we'll see Andy Dalton next game. I think we'll see Bryce Young next game. I will predict us to win because of a better effort from the offensive line and from the defense. And we're probably not going to see Saquon Barkley, which is going to help a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll pick us to win. I'll say 24-17. Just to throw something out there, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't know.
I'll say 2017 Panthers win. I think Andy Dalton gonna ball out and be like, "See, I told
you I was the starter."
Yep. Great question from Toby here. How do you think we would feel if we had won 27-0 yesterday? Oh, Panthers fans would have been ready to roll out the parade.
It is time for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Everybody, see, I told you this random person from Alabama A&T State was gonna be a monster, and then we never hear from him again. The overreactions go both ways.
They do.
So, and even from every team. If you go look at Jets fans today, they're like, we're ready to win the Super. Aaron Rodgers didn't even play, and we won 27-0. So, I will say this though, a win would have been great only because then we don't have to keep fighting these negative narratives from Charlotte sports fans. Right. I'd much rather the city be a bunch of homers that think we're going to win every game rather than a bunch of sad fans
all the time.
Like
we're accustomed to being all the time.
So I'd much rather have that, and a win would have done that.
Yeah.
Yesterday if we had won.
But we'll see, man.
Hey, what's up with your boy Brian Burns? That's your boy.
It is.
That's Florida State guy.
It is. You remember we saying a small problem could turn into a big problem? Yeah, buddy.
Frank Reich said yesterday he wasn't sure if Burns or Justin Houston would play at all in the preseason.
Which I don't care about that part.
Right. I don't care about that, but I got to think that some of that has to be maybe tied to the contract disputes.
I think they had a stalemate, and this is very similar to Miles Bridges, PJ Washington stuff, which we'll talk about a little later on in the show, but Brian Burns wants his money. I can't say I blame him, you understand? But at the same time, I know that Fitterer wants to manage that salary cap, and he wants to add talent all over that defense and not give it to just one guy. So I'm going to keep this very short and sweet, Kaiser. The way that Miles Bridges has to prove himself with the Hornets this season, Brian Burns has to do the same thing on the football field this season. If you want Bosa money, you better go perform like Bosa next season. It's that simple.
I really love Brian Burns, and I think he is a really good player. I like him in a Panthers uniform. But Nick Bosa, you are not.
I agree. And if you think you are, then you better go do it. It's that simple.
So the Panthers made an offer for him. The numbers on that are kind of unverified, by the way. But Burns right now would make $16 million, which is a lot.
That's eating up a lot of cap space.
That's a lot for a pass rusher still on his rookie deal. You make more than the starting quarterback does. Right. $16 million.
Right.
And
down the road that could prevent that. Right. That could be an issue.
And the Panthers could franchise tag him, which I actually think would happen.
If there's anybody to franchise, it would be him.
And then you say, okay, you want Nick Bosa money? Go play like Nick Bosa.
That's it. And we'll talk and we'll revisit this at a later date. Yeah.
So I will say I think his agent is kind of exploiting the fact that the Panthers tipped their hand by turning down all of those picks for Brian Burns and essentially saying that Burns was untradeable.
Because what that does is we think you're this valuable.
Yeah.
So the agent's like, really?
Oh,
really? You do?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Okay. So now you turn down a bunch of draft capital for this guy. You can't let him walk for nothing now. So pay us. Yeah, I agree. Burns is good. He's not elite, but he could play if he plays elite next year. Okay, pay the guy.
Pay the guy.
But yeah, he's. I think you got to bet on yourself. I know, and I know his goals are going to be lofty,
right?
But
prove it.
Yeah, you got to prove it.
Prove it.
So, by the way, Brian Burns is ranked 87 on Madden this year. He's not happy about that rating.
I'm not happy about that either. That's low. I agree. Bless you. That's yeah.
I'm allergic to talking about contract disputes because it's ridiculous. Apparently, I feel like 87 is a bit low.
Well. Yeah.
But that's the Carolina effect.
Hey, side note, are you coming back to Madden?
I'll be getting Madden this year.
You coming back?
Only because the PC version is finally going to get the same features that the console version got in the previous year. So I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay.
I'm going to do the 5-day EA Play trial because I'm on EA Play. And if it's not garbage, then plus, you know how fun it is to play with the new toys. Like, remember when Cam Newton's rookie season and you got Madden 10 or whatever that was, and you had new Cam Newton? It was so now we got Bryce Young.
Right.
We can build a dynasty, a virtual dynasty with Bryce Young. It's going to be great. I feel good. I feel good about Bryce Young. This is a great point about Brian Burns.
What we got?
Needs to get better setting the edge in the run defense.
I totally agree.
If Brian Burns if he breaks the sacks record next season, but can't stop the run,
then how do you properly pay somebody for that? You know what I mean? Because setting the edge for the run is just as important.
Yes.
Especially with a team who struggles to stop the run.
And we don't have a run stopper on the other side.
And I think Fitterer knows that, which is why he went out and got Justin Houston, because he's going to help with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. By the way, we didn't really talk about that pickup. That happened last week. We didn't do a show.
Yeah.
Do you really think that Justin Houston will make an impact, or is he too far on the downslope of his career to make any real?
I don't know if I can answer that because I'm thinking the same thing. When we signed him, that was the very first question I had. I was like, how much does he actually have left in the tank? But if anything else, though, here's one thing I can count on. I think his experience will be valuable either way, whether he's on the field,
that's true,
or off the field. I think the experience will be valuable either way, man. So
I agree.
Now, whether he can go physically pull this off is a whole nother story. We'll see. I hope so.
Another good question. Y'all are bringing the heat today.
Yeah, y'all bringing heat today.
Yeah. Do the Panthers need a number one wide receiver?
Yes, they do. They absolutely do, and they're not going to have it this season.
Okay, hold on. Do they really? Could they play wide receiver by committee like say New England does?
I think there's
the Saints. You can say all day that Michael Thomas was the number one receiver,
but he's never on the field.
But really, the Saints could have had anybody as the number one receiver. There are teams that get away without having a number one receiver because their offensive scheme and their quarterback play is that good.
To your point, and this is going to sound like I'm avoiding the question a little bit, but to your point, here's what I think is going to be important. I think Hayden Hurst is going to be important. You know why? Hayden Hurst is a pass-catching tight end, which we have not had here in a while.
Greg Olsen.
Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? And for a young quarterback, I think that is going to be very, very important. Now, there's a shelf life on that. I don't think you can get away with doing that long term. Right. So at some point, they are going to need to replace DJ Moore, essentially, who took it to the damn house on his first pass catch, but whatever.
On a terrible pass,
which
he's probably used to catching those from Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater. He was like, "Oh, this is a good ass pass. I'm going to score a touchdown."
But anyway, to answer the question, at some point, yes, and I think this season they can get away with receiver by committee, but they're going to have to replace him or something.
Hey, DJ Shark though.
He's a burner. Now he stretches the field. He's not a number one though.
He might be the training camp MVP. He might be our.
See, here we go. We're not doing this Curtis Samuel thing again, man. See,
I'm just saying he looked like in training camp he had a really good rapport with. So every quarterback has their guy.
Their guy, right?
And it looked like DJ Shark was Bryce Young's guy in training camp. Adam Thielen is going to be, I think, reliable, but he's, you can only get so much from him, I think,
right.
As far as scheme goes. And I felt like when Bryce Young feels like he needs to go downfield, DJ Shark is going to be the guy.
Yeah, no, speed is definitely not an issue with Shark, man. But I don't think he has the other intangibles to be a number one guy, but we'll see.
All right.
What else we got?
What else we got with the Panthers? I don't know. I'll just say next week my expectation is just a little bit more effort. I'm not expecting a win, even though I predicted a win by 3. But
can we trying to get shut out again? I think that'll just be dud.
Better O-line play or one Robert. Better definitely O-line play.
Yeah.
Having a good O-line, you could have a mediocre quarterback and wide receiver core with a stellar O-line, and you'll win a lot of games.
I.e. the 49ers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, now they did have Christian McCaffrey, another. We just gave our. It's seeing our best players ball out for other teams is a Charlotte. That's a Charlotte thing, right? Yeah. I remember people's like, man, they better make a Super Bowl. Christian McCaffrey. Well, they damn near did.
Damn near did.
And if he's healthy again next season, the 49ers are going to be a problem.
Okay, I don't want to cry today, so moving on.
All right. All right, so let's talk about this other team.
The other team.
Now, we avoided the Hornets during our summer break because it was Summer League, and we didn't feel like talking about Summer League because...
Tell people what you said to me off camera about us in Summer League.
Every let me look at the camera. Every year. So we've been doing this 4 years. The past 3, we talk about how much we don't like talking about Summer League NBA.
We just keep it tradition.
So this year we chose not to talk about it, okay? Because there's nothing really to talk about. Actually, there was a lot to talk about, but the narrative that fans wanted to talk about was not what we wanted to talk about. Okay, all right. So
there's that.
However, I think there's still a lot to talk about with the Hornets. First of all, the sale is final. Michael Jordan is no longer the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets. He wrote a nice little letter to the fans that should have said, screw y'all.
Right.
I brought y'all the Hornets back.
Y'all, you ungrateful bastards.
Yeah, but Michael Jordan had somebody on his team or Chat GPT write up some AI write up something.
Chat GPT write a classy goodbye letter to Charlotte fans.
And he took his $3 billion and went and smoked a cigar.
Right.
But the new owners, first of all, it was not a unanimous vote. One of the other owners voted against the sale.
Very interesting who that person was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of all the people.
That's just something you don't see a lot, if ever.
I wish somebody would ask James Dolan, who was the one owner who voted against new ownership in Charlotte. I want somebody to ask him what was his reasoning.
Well,
I'm very interested in that.
The NBA owners it's a billionaire boys club.
Right.
And Jordan just got into that club like a few years ago, right?
And I feel like this is so important to say. We say it all the time, and I don't feel like anybody really listens to us when we say this. Jordan is new billionaire, and he is on the lower. Matter of fact, he's the lowest.
Yeah.
In terms of billionaires in the NBA, Michael Jordan is at the bottom. Right. And that's important to know. But maybe not.
So it's important to note that our owners are hedge fund dudes.
Yeah.
That's how they made their billions.
Right.
And that's how they got into the Hornets with a minority ownership. How many of the owners in the NBA you think have money that ran through those hedge funds and then got lost in the GameStop stock situation a couple years ago? You think that James Dolan probably didn't have money that he lost? I bet the Hornets ownership probably, because he still has to pay that back.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's got to pay back almost $8 billion to investors that he lost in those hedge funds when he closed the company down. What if James Dolan was one of those guys like, hold up, man, this dude owe me.
He owe me money. What am I doing?
He owe me money, and he gonna buy NBA. You know when somebody owe you money and you see him at a concert,
I should do it at the Beyonce show. You owe me money.
I think that's what it is. Like, nah, bro. You got to pay off your debts for it before you can own a team.
We may have just cracked the code here.
Yeah. So that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Gabe Plotkin and Rick Shaw. So Gabe Plotkin was the one who was who owned the hedge fund company that lost $8 billion when a bunch of Redditors cracked the code to buying stocks from that hedge fund companies had placed their bets on.
Gabe Plotkin was named by Reddit an economic terrorist who has the financial power and respectability to become the figurehead of an NBA ownership group is in question by a lot of people.
I tell you that we said this when they were in talks for the sale. Chris said we are literally a poverty franchise now. That is absolutely true.
Thanks for depressing us here, Chris.
If you thought Michael Jordan was cheap, even though we've always maintained that narrative never really held water. How can you be up against the cap every season, but you cheap? But I digress. If you thought Michael Jordan was cheap, how cheap do you think a dude is going to be that still owes his investors $7-8 billion? How you think he gonna dig? Man, Jordan need to dig into his own pockets and you think this guy is gonna dig into his own pockets? They said he lost $300 million a year of his personal money over the last 3 years.
Wow. Kaza, you may have just answered another question for me because here's something I always wanted to know. All right. You recall when Michael Jordan was still the majority owner, right? And he bought on Plotkin and Snell
back in 2019.
Back in 2019. And the original goal behind that was to help him with some of the foundational stuff.
Right.
Building a new practice facility, investing in all the stuff that the fans wanted, right?
Right.
Invest in the coaching staff, invest in the scouting department, invest here, invest there. And you know what, Kaza? Nobody's ever asked this question. Why the hell did that not happen when they were here the first time? Why has no one ever asked that question? So now that we're going through this, I'm like, okay, that's why it didn't happen, because they're too damn busy losing money.
When you lose $300 million a year of your own money, you
care about the scouting department.
Exactly. Maybe that's why Jordan cashed out.
Right.
He was like, look, these motherfuckers about to be broke. Hey, y'all know about his team?
Look. Hey, I'm jumping off this boat.
What if Jordan come back as the owner in like 3-4 years? Because
you know how hard I will laugh if that happens. I will.
You heard it here first.
I will cry laughing on camera if that happens.
Because Michael Jordan still owns 49% of the team.
Minor stake, but you know what I mean. 49%.
Yeah, so
he's still in the building.
This is still an investment for Michael Jordan. If he sees it going under, he may say, I can jump out. Yeah.
And I don't have to go through the process of selling a majority stake. Right.
Yep. So, there's a lot of questions about Gabe. Rick Schnall seems to be somewhat bulletproof. Maybe not bulletproof, but he doesn't seem to have as many questions.
He's under the radar more than
Gabe is.
Than Plotkin is.
But Plotkin being tied to such a big thing, and this was that thing with GameStop was not a small thing. I mean, this was all over the news and everything, and he had to testify before Congress about this whole thing. Hey, where'd all that money go, bro? You just lost $8 billion, and then no one knows where it is. Right. How are you going to repay it? There was a big thing. So I understand the trepidation of some people, other rich people, about him being owners. None of that really matters to us as fans.
I'm glad you said that, because we got to transition to the stuff fans really want to talk about.
Right.
Hey man, are we gonna start signing free agents?
Right. Someone asked a really good question in the Hornets Facebook group a while ago, and it was in short, like what is the expectation? What do you guys expect from the new owners? And it was like that we bring in some quality free agents or some stuff. Oh boy. My answer was that they hire basketball people and shut up. That's it. Hire basketball people and go try and make your $7 billion back.
I think we know good and damn well Plock and Snell are not basketball guys. They are far from it.
This was an investment that they made to buy into the Hornets.
Say whatever you feel like you need to say about Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak, but they are 20 times more basketball guys than these guys are. So it's going to be that much more important for them to just either trust Mitch or whoever they're going to hire, whoever's going to be in charge of basketball operations, trust them and shut up.
Yep.
Get out the way. We don't need to input in anything.
Exactly. Let me ask you guys this, fans. If you owed somebody $5 to $7 billion,
it's a lot of money, man.
Let me ask you this: how much? If the Hornets sold for $3 billion this year, in 4 or 5 years, how much you think they were? 6, 7.
Right.
You sell that off, you pay your debts off, you're rich again.
Right.
How much? I mean, and here's the thing: the Hornets could be the worst team in the league every year for the next 5 years,
and it won't matter.
Won't matter.
Yep.
They'll still be worth $5-6 billion. 5-6 years from now.
Right.
So, what incentive does Gabe Plotkin and Rich Schnall, not basketball guys, have to? Yeah, okay. Everyone says, well, of course they want to make profit. They want to make more money,
right?
And that's absolutely true,
right?
But if you don't have to put any effort, they'll be able to sell the Hornets regardless of how much effort they put into making the Hornets a good team.
We don't have to be good because there's TV money now and there's profit sharing money. So again, you don't even have to be good to make money in the NBA.
Do you really think that these guys are not from Charlotte? So
they don't care about the Charlotte community ties.
Do you really think that how much do you really think they care? You guys, do you think they care more about the Hornets being successful than Michael Jordan did? Michael Jordan, who is from the area and is maybe the most competitive psychopath ever. Do you guys think that Gabe Plotkin really cares more about the Hornets winning than that guy?
So I'm gonna answer your question like a fan. This is not Jamal speaking. This is a fan speaking. So what a fan is gonna say to you is, well, if he cares so much, how come he didn't go get free agents? How come he didn't go pay more money to get my favorite player? How come he didn't pay more money to get my coach that I want? How come he didn't get Mark Jackson when we all wanted Mark Jackson? How come he can't get one of his Jordan guys to come play for our team? That's what's going to come back to you. I'll answer that sensibly now, okay? Because building a basketball team is not a video game, people. The Hornets' foundational problems have always been they don't draft the right guys. And if you don't draft the right guys, you don't attract the right guys.
Absolutely.
The Hornets are just now in this situation where they're starting to steer that ship as far as drafting the talent, okay? Now, if we keep going the way we're going now as far as drafting talent and getting better at that, then all that attracting free agent stuff is eventually going to come eventually.
Right.
But don't hold your breath, okay?
I mean, we're not gonna we're gonna pull the same level of free agents we've
always been.
Al Jefferson,
Gordon Hayward,
Nick
Stevenson,
Batum,
right?
Yeah, those are the guys we're gonna get those.
And let's be clear, Kaza, y'all. Let's be very clear. The way that the NBA is now, there's really only 6 markets that are getting so-called big name free agents.
Yeah, same ones.
And listen, I would be. The narrative of we're not aggressive enough to go get free agents, that would hold weight if Atlanta and Orlando and Washington, if those teams were getting big name free agents and Charlotte wasn't, then I'd be like, You know what, something's wrong here. But they're not. Nobody is. If it's not Phoenix, one of the 2 LA teams, or Brooklyn, or hell, that might be it. Who's getting big name free agents these days? Nobody.
Yep. And you know what? Fans, don't be surprised if Mitch sticks around. Think about this.
But why?
Think about this. You're new to NBA majority ownership. Michael Jordan is out the door. He's smoking cigars and enjoying.
Well, I don't think he's out the door.
Exactly.
But this is a situation where he's not the shot caller, quote unquote, anymore, right?
Do you and this is maybe the most pivotal time for the Hornets in their entire 30-year
absolutely on every level, on every single level. Absolutely,
it has to go right.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the perspective of building a winning culture and franchise.
Right.
do you trust that to just anyone, or do you want to stick with the guy who has already been moving the pieces around?
You know, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned that, because somebody was asking, well, why did Michael Jordan sell to those two people? We'll never know the reason to that question.
Because they had money.
Because he had money. I mean, that's a simple answer to that question.
And they were already involved in the ownership
group. And I don't know if there is another answer to that question, man. But going forward, man, again, do you trust those two to be as passionate about it? And we'll see. That remains to be seen.
I agree with Chris here. I think Mitch leaves on his own.
Same.
Jordan is his boy. He's not there anymore.
Right,
and
right.
Mitch Kupchak, 40,000 years old.
Right.
You know,
why does he need to stick around?
Stick around.
Yep.
And he's already done what he was asked to come here and do.
Yep.
I think he built a solid core.
Yeah.
I don't think the roster is as bad as Hornets fans want it to be.
Right.
They think we just drafted the worst guys. That's a solid core. LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Mark Williams.
I don't know about anybody else, but you know, I'm pretty excited about Nick Smith, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Mark Williams. I'm very excited about Brandon Miller. I'm very excited about the young talent on this team.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. I think, you know, we brought in a guy who did what Cho was unable to do, and that's draft the right guys. And look at where Mitch was drafting. He's drafting like 12, 13.
He ain't drafting 2 or 3 every time outside of Brandon Miller.
And
you know
the
what I mean?
2 times he does draft in the top 5, we get LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. So I'm good with the talent. Now we have to make that talent good enough to where free agents will want to come.
Absolutely.
And so Mitch has already done that. Now it's up to the owners to draft a good coach and development guys.
Right.
Really, that's all they need to do. Mm-hmm. Then they can go sit down and try and make their money back.
And let's talk about that, because now, you know, the whole quote unquote big name free agency thing, that's a whole nother animal in itself, which I think a lot of us are very unrealistic about those possibilities. But let's talk about going forward, the coach to quote unquote take us to the next level. You know what I mean? Who is that coach, or who is what is the culture the Hornets want to build, you know, going forward?
Right.
Now, are the owners going to invest in that stuff? And let me be clear. I think it's important. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
I do think it's important to, if the owners have this mindset where, okay, we're good now, but let's take it to the next level. I just wonder what their plan is behind that. I respect Steve Clifford. I'm a Steve Clifford guy more than the average Hornets fan is. However, I don't believe he's going to be here long term either way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just interested to know what they're feeling like. You know, is it going to be like the young gun coach? Is it going to be the experienced guy? I wish they would have answered those questions, because they didn't really say a lot during the
They don't know, because they're not basketball guys.
Right.
They don't know. So I think it would have been, fans would have hated this, but it might have been refreshing for them to say, look, we're just going to hire guys who really, really know basketball, and we're going to kind of let them do things. And maybe they didn't say that because maybe they would have felt like that was a slight to Jordan and Mitch, but they might have been like, look, we're gonna assemble a good team of basketball minds here, and you know, try and bring you guys a winning product. They should have said something like that, but instead I felt like their answers were way too vague.
Listen, I thought the press conference was a bunch of nothing. It was a bunch of fluff. All it was just fluff answers. The most exciting thing I got out that press conference was, we're going to build a new, the arena experience is going to be different, and we're going to get a new practice facility. That was the most exciting thing I got out of that.
Which to me, that means ticket prices are going to go up.
And plus, I don't give a shit about that, really. I mean, that's fine, but let's talk about the more important stuff, man.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what fans want to know. Fans want to know basketball stuff.
Right.
So maybe they'll realize that the NBA that is the NBA product. Whatever you deliver on court, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
If the product you put out on court is not good.
That's it.
It's as simple as that.
How many years did the Bobcats / Hornets have of just a trash product, but was A+ in all the other marketing stuff?
Oh, great. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The fan experience was great, and all this other stuff. The community service was great. But guess what? They stunk.
It didn't matter. Yep. Absolutely.
And fans are just tired of that. We want to win. So
why is PJ Washington? That's how I'm gonna phrase it. Why is PJ Washington?
Don't even finish the question.
Yeah. Why is PJ Washington? What are you doing, bro? What is he doing?
I was thinking about that on the way here, man. I don't know if I want to jump on PJ Washington himself or his agent, but somebody in that party is delusional. I hate to use that. Delusional might be a strong word, but I can't think of another word.
We
right
talked
now.
about this briefly before Summer League. The news had just come out that he was essentially doing the same thing that Miles Bridges was doing,
Right.
And he was going to take the qualifying offer and play on a small 1-year deal,
Right.
And then be an unrestricted free agent next season. To me, it's clear that the market was not what PJ and his agents thought it would be for him.
You would think the conversation would end right there.
Yep.
You would think so. However,
but now we're here. And you know what? This might be a dangerous trend for the NBA.
And for the Hornets in particular.
And Hornets in particular, small market teams.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right?
Right.
Because the rookie extension and rookie extension scale and offering max offers on rookie extensions was designed to prevent this. It was designed so that you could pay your guys more than anyone else could pay them. But
it seems like it could backfire.
It's backfiring because now players are like, well, I'm willing to take $5 million, $7 million for 1 year. That's all I was making anyway.
Right.
I'll do it for one more year, and then I'll go out and play for anyone else that will pay me more than that.
Right.
And now we run the risk of losing Miles and PJ next season. A lot of people are like, well, if Miles balls out, which I think he will, then the Hornets will have to pay him. Well, but then anybody could pay him.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the
issue. And you think if LA comes a knocking, you think Miles Bridges ain't going to go to one of the big six, LA, Miami, Chicago, New York?
Which he already lives out there in the offseason anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You think he might even go to the Detroit Pistons. He grew up loving that team, and it's no secret that they've been kind of shopping for him.
Right.
So I don't like this at all. And I feel like that PJ Washington, let's say he plays a good season. And as a UFA, he's getting good offers. And the Hornets make him a better offer. I feel like he would even spike the Hornets and go somewhere else just to not be a member of the Charlotte Hornets.
To me, which would be stupid, but I mean, at that point, it would just be petty. You know what I mean? But here's why I say delusional, man. And again, not to be repetitive, but you would think that his agent looked around the league and said, okay, nobody's going to pay us $18 to $20 million. Not one team, not one of these 31 other teams decided to step up and pay us $18 to $20 million. The market determines your worth. I mean, it's that simple, right? So if the market is telling you you're not worth $18 to $20 million, what are you doing? You going to sit out and lose money?
Yes.
Take the damn deal.
Take the deal.
Prove yourself.
Because to me, that I'm thinking, okay, you don't want to play for us. Because if you don't,
let's be grown men. Let's negotiate something where we can set up a sign and trade. But you know what may be holding that up? The Hornets probably don't even want to sign that initial $18 to $20 million contract because they're afraid nobody else wants to take it on. You understand what I'm saying?
It's clear the plan was to sign PJ this season and then maybe Miles. I don't because they weren't expecting Miles to take the qualifying offer either. And then next season, now you have enough money because you've locked up your guys.
Right.
You have enough money for free agency. That's not going to be the case next season.
Right.
You put the Hornets in a big hole because now they've got to next season, they're going to have to re-sign Miles and PJ, and that's not going to leave a lot of money for them guys that y'all fans want us to sign. There's not going to be any money left.
Hey man, this thing called a salary cap ain't going nowhere, y'all. So
next season is going to be, well, do we want PJ Washington or do we want to try for Pascal Siakam?
Right. Or whoever. Right. Man, the Pistons, they signed Isaiah Stewart 4 years, $64 million. Why am I bringing this up? Because if you judge by the metrics and the numbers and the stats, PJ Washington is very comparable to Isaiah Stewart, albeit on a slightly better team. I mean, there's not much difference, but you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this, and if I'm PJ's agent and I'm doing my job, I'm looking at what Isaiah Stewart signed for, and I'm like, okay, why in the world why would we deserve so much more money than that? You understand what I'm saying? Realistically.
I think that PJ also, and what factors into this is that he has played, to his credit, a big role in the Hornets. He was day one starter.
Listen, he's been very reliable.
Yep.
Has not missed a ton of games
due to injury.
They've asked him to do a lot.
Yep.
He played out of position a lot. All of that.
He's played the 5, the 4, and the 3. He's been a day one starter, all except for one season.
Went back to the bench when they asked him to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it, but you're only worth what you're worth, bro.
That's the bottom line, my man.
If no other team wants to pay you $18 million, don't get mad because the Hornets don't want to pay you that.
Right.
The Hornets going to pay you because for better or for worse, we always say this whenever a team does a business decision. Well, the NBA/NFL, whatever, is a business. Yeah, it's a business.
No doubt. At the end of the day, yep.
So why are we going to pay you $18 million if no one else will pay? If we can get away with paying you $15 million,
right?
So, I don't know.
Look, man,
I'd like to see PJ come back. I don't want to see him come back for $18 million this year. I hope he has a great season, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, let's say PJ Washington has an all-star season. Even then, do you feel comfortable paying him $20 million to come back?
He had to have an all-star season for me to pay him that. I'm saying he would have to be borderline all-star or all-star replacement level player for me to pay him that much money. Seriously. That's how good he'd have to be, in my opinion.
I agree.
He can't be the same.
He's not even been as good as Miles Bridges was the season before.
And Miles Bridges is going to win 30. You know what I mean? So, Hey, man, I'm going to get my Brian Windhorse on for a second. All right? Let me look at the camera. Let me be very clear about this. This is not Jamal having some inside information. This is not Jamal talking to anybody. This is just me kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, man? I'm future gazing. This is a scenario that I'm constantly replaying in my head, okay? Y'all, if this goes down, I want everybody to be like, damn, Jamal, you were the first one to think about this. I'm going to tell y'all right now. Cos, you looking at me? I'll tell you right now. Y'all keep looking at the situation in New Orleans. What do I mean by that? Keep a close eye on what's happening with New Orleans and Zion Williamson. Why am I saying this? It is no coincidence that around draft time, the Pelicans and the Hornets were linked. Zion Williamson, I don't think he's suddenly happy he's in New Orleans. I don't think that changed, right? So here's what I'm saying. If there continues to be drama with the Pelicans and Zion Williamson, and let's just say Miles Bridges and the Hornets don't come to an agreement with the contract by the All-Star break, I'm just saying. Think about it this way. I've said this to you before, Kaiser. If you're the New Orleans Pelicans, and let's just say Zion Williamson ultimately decides I don't want to be here anymore. Realistically, what is a better consolation prize than Miles Bridges? Realistically.
Oh, yeah. I think a sign and trade. You do a sign and trade, Miles for Zion and some picks.
And whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And you can have one more guy if you want. You just take whoever you want.
Think the Hornets wouldn't jump on that?
Of course they would. They'd be foolish not to. Foolish.
Again, man, this is kind of an NBA 2K scenario, but it's one that makes sense to me. I'll keep it. I'll say it that way.
Could J. Cole talk? We ain't even talked about, J. We stupid. I forgot. J. Cole going to take us to the promised land. Thank you for reminding us, Ethan.
Yeah, maybe we get J. Cole to talk to Zion.
Yeah,
man.
J. Cole, yeah. When J. Cole going to have a press conference?
J. Cole ain't having no press conference.
No, yeah. Does PJ start next year? Woo.
No, I don't think so.
You think he goes back to the bench?
Yeah, I think he goes back to the bench.
So let's see. We got.
I'm telling you, y'all. You
got LaMelo, Miles, and Mark Williams. We know those are those three starters.
Kaiser, I'm telling you, Hornets fans are going to be furious because it's going to be the same five.
So actually,
I'm telling you,
a good source of ours stated that he believes that Brandon Miller will start at the 2.
I don't agree.
I disagree with that as well.
Listen, hey, if it happens, cool. I'm wrong. I'll be happy to be wrong about it, but I don't agree.
I don't want to see him start at the 2. I tell you why. I really hate when college players come into the NBA and they change at the beginning of the career.
Right.
Like they did that with Frank Kaminsky. You played center, but we don't think you'd be a good center, so we're going to put you at the 4.
And it hardly ever works, man.
It never works. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So play that man at the 3.
like you're supposed
you
to.
don't even have to start him. But the thing is, if you play him at the 3, you got to play Miles at the 4, and that doesn't leave anywhere for PJ to start.
That's why I'm thinking he's going to come off the bench again.
If you play,
because I'm going to take it a step further. Here's what y'all really don't want to hear, man. And I'm telling you, man, I truly believe it's going to be Mark, Miles, Gordon Hayward. Yep, damn it, I said it.
Terry Rozier
and LaMelo
Ball. Miles Bridges. Yeah, that's the starting five.
I'm thinking it's going to be mostly the same, man.
I agree.
But I will say this. There may be, and again, man, I'm not in practices. I don't know this stuff, but there may be, a situation where Clifford is going to really evaluate Miller and Hayward. It's going to be like a position battle. And I kind of envision Gordon starting initially. But at some point, you want your number 2 pick to be in there.
I mean, we know Gordon Hayward going to be injured by game 20.
I mean, there's that too. And it's very likely it's his last year here anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Brandon Miller is eventually going to be the guy. It's just a matter of when. But it just may not happen game 1.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. It's going to be the same old starting 5. Fans are going to cry, whether we win or lose. And yeah, that's
gonna be it. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So by the way, NBA preseason starts October 5th.
I'm not complaining.
It's a month away. A month plus away.
Sooner the better. I'm cool with that. I'm very glad the NBA season starts a little earlier
than it normally does.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Then why do we all pretend like Terry Rozier ain't on the team no more? I swear, we just forget about Terry.
About the guy. Like, just, when I say we, Hornets fans have been predicting that dude is going to be traded for like 2 seasons now. You know what I'm saying? Every trade deadline, who was the first name?
Terry Rozier.
Terry Rozier. Still here. And on top of that, got 2 years left on his deal? So
bring Kelly Oubre back.
Let's talk about that really quick.
Especially since PJ and Miles took their qualifying offer, so now there's money to spend. Just sign Kelly.
Hey, man, look, maybe I'm the delusional one here, but I am very shocked that nobody else jumped on Kelly Oubre. I'm shocked, man.
I think he might want too much money.
Maybe that had to be the case.
Think about it. So this was the most times he started since like he was in Phoenix.
Yeah, right.
And he played pretty well, right?
Yeah.
He put up great numbers.
Right.
So they're going to base his market value off of that. And a lot of teams are probably like, okay, this guy is essentially a journeyman at this point in his career. He can score. He's all right on defense. Probably shoots too much. Do we really want to spend $20 million on Kelly Oubre? Because that's probably what he's asking, right?
I'm guessing.
And I'm thinking the market's just not there for him.
Yeah.
And maybe the Hornets made him an offer and him and his agent didn't agree on that because of the increase. Same with PJ Washington. Both those guys had increased roles this season due to injuries, and they both performed better than they had performed in seasons past. So
re-signing Kelly Oubre would present what I call a good problem, because we mentioned a lot how there's already a logjam at the 2 position in particular. And, if you bring Kelly back, there's this logjam at now the 2 and 3 positions. So you got to figure out, all right, what's this mean for Cody Martin?
And that could be a big,
you know
big
what I'm
thing.
Right.
We got all these wing players now. But we need another.
But particularly with Cody Martin, because they just gave him money. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Book Knight and McGowan.
But we don't even know how effective Martin's going to be after a fairly significant injury.
Which is another good question. Now, let's just say they do their medical evaluations and he's not where they want him to be. Now, at that point, re-signing Kelly Oubre becomes a little more important at that point.
I feel like, they say this all the time. Your job as GM is to constantly be looking at ways to improve the roster.
Right. Kelly Oubre improves the roster, period.
There you go.
Point blank.
Kelly Oubre right now, as much as I love Cody Martin, he's a better player.
He's a better basketball player.
He's probably not as good of the defender, but Cody Martin hasn't played in a season, essentially. I mean, he played like a few games last season. He tried to come back from the injury and really couldn't. But we don't even know where he's at. Right now, Caleb Martin is probably the better Martin based on what we saw in the playoffs. So I would just re-sign Kelly and roll with it. I think Kelly Oubre wants to be here. He might want a little too much. But if I had $20 million to spend, I would take Kelly over PJ with that $20 million.
And look, man. I mean, we're almost in September. Training camp starts really soon, so in the next 2 or 3 weeks, man. I mean, these guys need to kind of decide. Hey,
you got to kind of have your team,
right.
That you're at least that you're taking in the training camp. You got it.
I'm sure PJ and Kelly don't want to play overseas somewhere, so they got to.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They better take this money and.
Well, PJ is taking the qualifying offer, so he's going to be a Hornet. But Kelly, for one, it would be very odd to like load up NBA 2K24, 25 or whatever, and then see Kelly Oubre in the free agents list. You know, like you see, like remember how like Cam Newton was just sitting there for like 3 years, like what the hell? Colin Kaepernick just there, right? Not on a team. That's gonna be Kelly Oubre. Like, why is he not
very high on the list?
Yeah, rated like 85.
Right,
like, what are you doing, bro?
Right.
Yeah. So that's gonna be very odd. I'd like to see Kelly go somewhere, but I think the fans like him here. He likes being here. The money's not right, but I mean, at this point, like $15 million is better than no $1 million, right?
Right. And
so,
not to mention, $15 million would be about fair.
I feel like $15 million. I feel like he's worth a little more than 15.
Maybe a little more.
Maybe 17, 18. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
And but apparently, I don't know. I'm not a GM.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy on a podcast.
Hey, that's why they hire those GMs to deal with that stuff. So
absolutely.
Godspeed. Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's end the show. What you got for shout outs? Shout it.
Shout outs or shout ats, man. I'm gonna let you go first because yours is probably
you know who I'm gonna shout out.
I'm gonna join you on this one.
So hip hop celebrated its 50th anniversary this week. I mean, congratulations.
Me and you are almost as old as hip hop.
Oh shit! You're right. You
didn't think about that, did you?
Wow! Holy crap!
Yeah. That's how long we've been listening to it and in the culture and all that stuff. Man.
I mean, I showed my daughter Breaking 2 the other day, which is those movies were very odd.
Important question.
Yes.
Breaking 2 or Breaking 1?
Breaking 1.
Really?
Okay. All right. Let me say this. In terms of what those movies meant to the culture, and I know people will kind of roll their eyes at those movies meaning anything to the culture, but they got to realize for a lot of people,
right,
the Breaking movies was their first ever exposure to the hip hop culture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, regardless of
Crush Groove,
Crush Groove, and Beat Street.
Yep.
So it's hard to say how accurate those movies are, and plus those movies focus on the more of the breakdancing part of the culture. Whereas Crush Groove and Beat Street was more music. But I think as far as movies, the first Breaking got it right more than the second Breaking was maybe a little more entertaining. There was more dancing. It was like a music number every 2-3 minutes.
But maybe not as raw as one.
Yeah, one was more raw. It was like, it was more...
authentic.
Yes, it was more authentic to hip hop. Plus, and the culture where it was in that place and time. Having said that, my daughter did not like Breaking 2. She was like, "What is this?" My daughter's 20, by the way. She was like, "What is this?" Wild Style's another good one, Austin. Yes, 2. I don't know if 2 was appropriation. It was more of like. One was so popular that
we got to expand the audience with 2.
Right, we got to make it was more.
Let's make it a little more accessible to everybody else.
It was more exploitative than one was. Like, they filmed Breaking 2 a month after Breaking 1 released, and they saw it was going to make a bunch of money. So actually, before I get to my shout out, let's rank hip hop. Top 5 hip hop movies.
Ooh, good one, man.
Okay, I'm gonna say all right. So number 5. This is a controversial one.
Okay.
I'm going to say 8 Mile.
Really?
8 Mile was a great hip-hop movie, especially, you got to look at 2 things. The time period the movie takes place in, mid-90s.
Yeah.
That was a great time for hip-hop.
Okay.
And the time the movie came out, early 2000s, where hip-hop was going through this weird transitional period. And that movie kind of brought battling back to the forefront. There were a lot after 8 Mile came out, everybody wanted to freestyle battle, and it did a lot for the culture. I know people Eminem is like a hot button topic, and he always will be because he's a white dude that can rap really, really well, right?
Right.
Let's not skirt around that topic. But I feel like 8 Mile, number 5.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm gonna go Breakin'. I feel like Breakin' was the first movie was a good representation of breakdancing culture and more West Coast hip hop culture.
Right.
I think, and a lot of people forget that hip hop at the time was really an amalgam of disco, punk. It was a lot of different things culturally.
Right.
It wasn't its own thing yet, and I felt like the first Breakin' movie encapsulated that.
Okay.
Number 3, Crush Groove. I mean, Sheila E. was in it.
Yeah.
Run DMC.
Everybody.
It was just, I mean,
important. Yep.
it was just, it was a dope movie.
All right.
Number 2, Wild Style, because although Wild Style is more of it has more of a documentary type feel to it, I felt like that movie best encapsulated hip hop. Like, it was very raw, and it was probably the most authentic hip hop movie of its time. Number 1, Beat Street.
Yeah.
Because it was, hip hop is born out of urban necessity.
Right.
Like, people don't realize instruments and learning how to play instruments and getting into music is a fairly privileged thing. It was expensive.
And it was not accessible to.
It's not accessible.
Yeah.
So you had these kids in the streets that were making music any way they could through what little limited access to technology they had. And that's what Beat Street was about. The scene where, I can't even remember his name, but where he goes to a real studio for the first time and he can't figure out how to work everything, and he gets frustrated because he don't have his setup at home, his little boom box and his turntables that he was able to make these incredible creations on. I love Beat Street, and I know I'm an old head, so I'm gonna pick old head hip hop movies, but that's my top 5.
I'm gonna go.
Long Live Rainbow.
I'm gonna go a different route. Okay. Now you're picking hip hop movies in its purest form, like movies that are particularly about hip hop.
About hip hop, right?
I'm gonna pick movies that kind of involve hip hop culture, but maybe not strictly about hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Right, I got you.
All right, I am gonna go Breakin' 2. Now that's the one. That's the one I am gonna go. I'm gonna go. That's my first choice. All right. Number 4, Paid in Full.
Okay.
You want to talk about a movie I know every single line to? That's one of them.
Okay.
Number 3, Juice.
Juice?
Yes. Oh, God, I love that movie, man. Tupac played, oh, God, excellent role. Tupac should have won the damn Emmy for that. I don't care what anybody says. Great. Yeah, you know.
I don't know about all
I'm exaggerating, but it was a dope movie.
Yeah.
Next, I'm going to go Above the Rim. That's another movie I really love.
Yeah.
All right?
Great soundtrack. Incredible. Great. Had the Dog Pound on it. It was great.
God. Oh, here's my number 1. Do the Right Thing. Classic movie.
Oh,
1989.
Yeah. So I was going to say Belly because JG said that.
Yeah.
And here's why Belly is so great, because it's a bad movie. It is poorly made. It's poorly acted. It looks like it's like an hour and a half long music video.
Right.
Essentially, the plot, the premise is bad.
The only thing that's not bad are like the visuals. Like it's shot
that's what I'm
great.
saying.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's
that's why it works though.
Exactly. It's iconic to, especially if you think about when it came out, where the hip hop video had really evolved and ascended past what it was.
Hype Williams was that dude.
Look at Gangstar Mass Appeal, which is one of my favorite hip hop videos of all time. Gangstar Mass Appeal is just them riding in a car. That's it.
It looks like it made $100. It took $100 to make that video.
Right, yeah. Yep. Whereas all these Hype Williams videos after that in the late 90s, early 2000s were these like huge productions, and Belly looked like that. Yeah. So it's
that opening scene was
I mean, Nas and DMX. I mean, I feel that. Good choices here. I like that because hip hop culture is not just even the 5 elements. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Like Do the Right Thing is a great example. And even though there was, like the soundtrack, which was a great soundtrack, had a mix of there were gospel songs on the Do the Right Thing soundtrack. But I mean, we all remember Fight the Power, right?
Exactly. That anchored the whole
exactly. And it's it's crazy because I don't think we have that anymore. There are no current movies or media that really encapsulates the culture, except for maybe like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because Miles Morales is Puerto Rican.
Real quick. So speaking of what you just said, man, this is why I tell everybody, if you're looking for something of that ilk to really, really educate, not just educate, but just to, I mean, if you want nostalgia, if you want to be educated, if you just want to just generally learn about hip hop culture, there is an excellent documentary on Netflix called The Evolution of Hip Hop. Mm-hmm. The guy who produced that, I mean, Kaz, when I tell you that man did his homework, he ain't just talking about Tupac and Biggie.
Right.
It's not just the surface level stuff that we always hear. You understand what I'm saying? And it's not just New York. This dude goes all over the country. He's looking at the roots of the New Orleans bounce culture. Mm-hmm. He's looking at Atlanta culture. He's looking at West Coast culture. He's looking at all the forefathers of New York and the founders of hip hop. He covered all of his bases when it comes to hip hop stuff, man. So that's one I will just highly recommend to anybody when it comes to like just hip hop culture in general, man. So
I feel like we people our age, Gen X, Zennials, we have lived literally through every era of hip hop.
No doubt.
That's why it's weird when people be like, man, old heads, we only listen to 90s hip hop. Well, yeah, because it was the best era. See, we remember what was before 90s hip hop.
What was going on now.
Right,
exactly.
Yeah,
we were there.
We were there.
But
there's a reason why we don't say, 1984 was the best era of hip hop, because it wasn't.
It was 4 years. No one was 4 years old.
Right, yeah. So, I mean.
But even those dudes would be like, well, it progressed to something else in the Renaissance age. But here's the thing, Kaza. Here's the thing. And this is where I probably am going to sound like an old head. If I sound the way I sound, because I think you'll agree with me on this. In the 90s, when we say hip hop was a culture, it was a culture. It wasn't just some stuff you listened to. It was everything. You understand what I'm saying? We dressed it.
Yes.
We talked it. We lived it. We like everything.
Okay, let me close on it before I get to my shout out, which started this whole thing. I'm gonna read a quote, and people can debate. This is something to debate.
Me and Kyle are gonna start a hip hop podcast.
We've thought about it. We actually just have a hip hop radio show called Cyber Divine. Yeah. It was on FM radio here in Charlotte. That was 2010, 2011. Yep. But everyone has a podcast nowadays, so.
Wait.
All right, so someone posted. They said it was an interview with. I'm not sure who the interview was with, so forgive me on this. But they said, "Do you believe hip hop is? Do you believe hip hop is revolutionary? Was it ever?" And the answer they gave was, "You can't be a revolutionary with broken gender politics. You cannot be a revolutionary and be homophobic." And this is before we even get to capitalism. To be homophobic, transphobic, and misogynist? No, you are not a revolutionary. You're not even a radical. You're actually quite status quo. What it was a radical sound.
Now, who's saying this?
And that's not even true anymore. So
interesting.
Dreamhampton.
Okay.
Said that.
Okay.
So here's the thing.
Interesting.
It's kind of true.
In a sense, it's half true. I'll say why in a second.
I'll say, okay. The question is a loaded question too.
It's very loaded.
By saying, is it revolutionary or was it ever? In terms of, there are a lot of different ways to look at hip hop. In terms of musically, yes, absolutely revolutionary. I mean, look at
can't deny it. It's a worldwide phenomenon now.
Look at sampling now. I mean, that was hip hop.
Hip hop is keeping old recording artists wealthy or
and the
paid.
Fact that hip hop is really the only musical style that draws from other musical styles directly.
Right.
Like hip hop has been influenced by jazz, punk, rock, reggae. I mean, any musical style you can think of, hip hop has found a way to incorporate those musical elements in that theory into its own music theory and make hip hop. And it's one of the reasons why hip hop will always continue to evolve where other genres have remained stagnant.
Yeah.
So musically, yes. Culturally,
taking a big hit there.
Oh, okay. I'll say this. In 1977 or 73 or whenever, when if we go to the birth of hip hop, I will say yes, culturally it was, because it gave urban youth an avenue that they did not have previously for expression.
It literally saved lives.
It did.
Seriously.
Before that, the only artistic expression you could get as an urban youth was
graffiti.
Which is one of the
part of hip hop,
which is part of hip hop culture, right? So before hip hop culture, there was no way
there wasn't an outlet,
right? There was no artistic expressionist outlet for urban.
And make sure you repeat this, because people are going to say, "Oh, well, you could have just picked up an instrument and it again."
It was
not accessible to the hood.
It was not. Okay, even if you got your hands on an instrument, who was going to teach you how to play it?
Who's going to teach you how to play it? Right. There was no, you had the crack going on. There wasn't the music programs and all this other stuff. Yeah.
If you look at famous black musicians, go and read their histories and how they got into music. It's always like, James Jamerson with Motown got gifted a bass from a music teacher in school because he said, "Hey, that guy is kind of talented. Here's an old messed up bass in a closet."
Look, Joe Jackson about had his house foreclosed just to go get a guitar for Tito. Like, that's how real it was back in the day.
Yes, exactly. However, I agree with the point, however, that hip hop lost its way very early, not of its own fault, but whenever you start, when money comes into the equation.
You're stealing my point. Let me
Let
me take this one. This is why, like, a lot of people know me and they feel like, "Oh man, you're so grumpy against hip hop," and it's not really against hip hop. It's against the powers that be, so to speak, and it's the record labels and the media outlets. That's what changed hip hop. Now, going back to Dream Hampton's comments about being revolutionary, you remember a time where hip hop was pride, it was power, it was empowerment.
Yes,
it was all of that. And then somewhere in the early 90s, it started shifting. And there was a big rift between Africa Bambaataa and NWA, because Bambaataa was like, "Hey, all this happy-go-lucky fun stuff, empowering black power, black pride stuff that we were making, y'all came and ruined it with this gangster stuff." Like, hip-hop evolved differently because record labels start pushing it differently. Now, to be fair, I want to be fair. NWA in particular, who was seminal in changing hip-hop. Let's be very clear about that, okay? If you ask them, "Hey, we're just telling stories from where we're at. This is our environment. We're telling our stories." Here's the problem with that, Kaiser. Record companies look at that and be like, "We don't care what y'all are doing. We're just going to exploit it for what it..."
We need money.
We need money. Guns, killing, violence, kill, violence.
That makes money.
That makes money. So we're going to jump on that.
But to their point, is that really their fault?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not NWA. No.
Is it even the record company's fault if they say, "Hey, young black youth, they really like this glorification
of violence,
and you know what? I was one of the biggest consumers of gangster rap ever in the 90s. I grew up in the damn suburbs. I grew up in South Charlotte, dog. They ain't no gangsters in South Charlotte.
Let's be clear. There was way more balance.
That's true. There was a lot more balance.
I could listen to an NWA album, and then in the next breath, I could listen to.
But look at where we
De La Soul.
But look at where we were from.
Right.
I think it's different in places like here, whereas like South Central Los Angeles at the time, you had NWA come out, and they're telling you what it's like to live in South Central LA, and thus that becomes the soundtrack for that youth, and it expanded globally because now you've exposed that to a demographic of people who would have never known. Right. I would have never known about gangbanging and selling drugs and shit if
I didn't listen to that. Right.
If Uzi in My Pocket didn't come out. Right. So it's hard for me to place any particular blame on anyone for that. What I will say is I don't think the record companies really said to Dr. Dre, "Hey, you guys need to be more homophobic."
Right.
I think that's just part of society at that point.
Yeah.
That was just part of culture in general.
And let's be clear, artistic expression ain't perfect, and it brings out your imperfections, and
it has to progress like anything else.
Exactly.
I mean, you won't hear people in hip hop nowadays say the same things that they were saying back then. And even I will say, even Griselda notwithstanding, who I love Griselda, but even the amount of violent content is not what it was from 92 to like 97.
Right.
You know, art has to progress.
Yep.
The idea that hip hop was not revolutionary because of that, I get that sentiment, but I think the conversation is too nuanced.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe to just say, no, you were status quo because you engaged in this methodology that the status quo engaged in.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I don't know. I think that's a good conversation. I think it's one that everyone should have. I talk about this all the time with people, how people pick and choose what they liked and don't like about hip hop as far as what's been problematic.
We got a question now here.
People sang along with Dylan on the Wild Side, and the Color Girl saying he must have been status quo too. Well, he was.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, I think that it's funny that people, I will say in that particular statement that Dream Hampton made, at nowhere did Dream Hampton mention violence.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned misogyny and homophobia and transphobia.
Right.
Well, what about, like, there was literally a whole genre dedicated to us killing each other.
Somebody, that term gangster rap didn't come out of nowhere.
Shouldn't that have been, like you say, you cannot be a revolutionary if you are killing yourself, if you're helping what you're supposed to be. I thought that was just very telling that didn't come out of this conversation.
Yeah. So to your shout out.
All right. But we said all that to say, Melly Mel.
Sit your ass down.
Sit yo Jim going ass down.
You are 63 years old, sir.
For those who don't know, Melly Mel, one of the legends of hip hop. He's like
founding fathers.
He's like the Bill Russell of hip hop.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Did Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. He was the lead man in the Furious 5. Did the message. Ain't a person in the world who has never heard "Don't push me, cause I'm close to the."
My father listens to that song today.
Yes. Ice Cube sampled it. Puff Daddy I mean, this is Melly Mel.
Right.
Melly Mel put out an Eminem diss track.
That was the most horrific thing I've probably ever heard.
Yeah, somebody said the apology was better than the diss.
I told you about the apology.
Yeah, it was so bad he had to take it off the internet. And y'all know that nothing can really ever be deleted from the internet, but it was so bad that he took it off the internet because, first of all, many things wrong with this. Not even just an old rapper coming out of retirement to diss somebody, which has happened before.
Right.
We remember Ice-T, Soulja Boy, and
it never goes well.
It never goes well for the old head, even when he or she is in the right.
Right.
But in this particular case, Eminem is an old head too. Eminem ain't.
It's not like he's some.
Eminem came out in 1999. Right. Why didn't you go after him?
And why was it so random? Like, why are you going after him to begin with? Like, I never got the answer to that question.
I don't know why. You know, like we said, Eminem has always been and going to be a polarizing figure in hip hop.
Right.
He just is.
But you know what's funny, man? Eminem, I have this conversation about Eminem all the time, man. Eminem has always maintained that he's quote unquote a guest in hip hop. He knows
he has said that. Look,
he said it out of his mouth.
I am profiting off of black music.
He said it out of his mouth. He's never tried to be something he ain't. Yep. Never. He knows what's up.
Right.
So I don't really understand why people keep coming at him because he's never like.
Well, you know why they keep coming at him.
I know the answer to that because he's a white boy.
Well, because he's good,
and he'll eat you alive. Yes,
he's good. He's one of the. I mean, you got.
Look, if he was white boy that didn't sell any records, we wouldn't hear from him. No one would care. No one would care.
Right? Yep, but no. So that's what it is, and I mean that's okay. I understand. And as you know, what kind of hip hop I like to make and listen to. I've always liked Eminem. So but I understand that there are people, whoever, that may feel some kind of way about him. That's fine. And Melly Mel is even included in those people. That's fine.
Right.
But at your age, just make a statement and keep it moving,
keep
dog.
It pushing, bro. There was no need to make a song.
When you make, let me quote some lyrics.
Don't.
No, I have to. I have to quote some lyrics from the disc. I'm just gonna quote.
Oh man, it is 1984 all over again.
Yeah.
Man.
Okay, so I want you to imagine this in the Melly Mel. His cadence ain't changed since 1983.
Rap like Melly Mel.
I will give you £1, but I'll break your hand. I got a lawyer so white, he will take your land. Check your man, come and look at your friend, because I think that Eminem is popping pills again. That's actual.
Oh, God.
I got a lawyer so white, he will take your land.
Oh, God.
You know I said hip-hop back
about 50 years. Literally.
We back in 1973.
We back with Kool Herc on the hill with that one. Yeah, buddy.
I mean, and it like so cringe. I feel so bad for him. I'm very glad. I actually have a lot of respect for Eminem for not responding to that.
That was the best response.
Right, yeah.
Considering,
and here's what's funny. 20 years ago, Eminem probably would have responded to that.
Yeah.
But now he's probably like, what the,
what the hell? Like, Haley. Let's go.
Yeah, whatever, bro. I mean, oh my God. I have a lawyer so white he will take your land. You really wrote that.
And you know what's funny, man? Like, Melly Mel he's kind of been a bully the last like 10 years. Like Eminem ain't the first cat he's come at, man. And everybody
but I get it. It's hard. And people have forgotten about you in your contribution to hip hop. I get it. Right. But see, that's the thing. You either sit back and do like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
He knows what contributions he's made to the NBA and the culture of sports and all that.
He doesn't need to keep himself relevant.
He don't ever talk about LeBron James, Michael Jordan, or any of that stuff, right? So, but if you want to continue to be relevant, then continue to be relevant. Like give back to the culture, okay? So you were this big,
and there are other ways to do that.
Right? But rapping just ain't for you, dog. It's evolved way past.
So let me admit something. I didn't have a shout out today, but you just reminded me of a shout out I do have. In the same breath of hip hop, my shout out goes to MC Shan. It's sad. When I tell you, it is sad to look at MC Shan these days on a physical level.
Yeah.
On a level of God, I just hope you're okay. You understand what I'm saying? To put some background to my shout at, Shan had this thing where it's like, Nas is one of the most celebrated figures in hip hop. We don't have to talk
Queens,
about that. He from the same hood as MC Shan is. So Shan had this shout out like, Nas, how come you ain't come get me for all these hip hop 50 celebrations? Hip hop is turning 50. I need to be involved, which I agree with. What I don't agree with is that Nas does not have a responsibility of including you in these celebrations, because there's so many. There's probably so many in and outs we don't know about as far as that goes, as far as booking shows and all this other craziness going on. But with all that being said, man, I'm just sad. Like, Shan might have went out quietly worse than Mel did. But to your point, it's these old dudes who ain't in the glory days no more.
It's hard because hip hop is such a global phenomenon now, and it's making so much money, and you've missed out on that, even though none of that would exist without you. I actually hung out with Shan years ago when I was signed to the small independent label. The owner of the label was friends with Shan and a lot of them, those queens. He was good friends with the Force MDs too.
Oh wow!
And they came to Charlotte for CIAA, and I hung out with those guys. And Shan felt the same way. Man, all these new cats, you know what I'm saying? They don't understand how we used to do back in the.
Right.
I was like, dude, that was like 40 years ago, man. It's like that would be like, imagine if Duke Ellington was dissing Herbie Hancock. Like, man. Fusion jazz, it wouldn't be anything without Take the A Train we did in 1926. It's like, dude, that's like you like either you're gonna continue to contribute to the culture and help it evolve,
or you're gonna sit back and be grumpy.
Or sit back, I just be like, hey, I helped build that, and keep it moving.
Keep it moving, man. Shan had one of the. You remember the Sprite commercials with the hip?
Oh, those were dope, man. The all the Sprite commercials had Common, KRS-One, had Shan. I mean, Yeah, we need that kind of hip hop back. Whatever happened to fun hip hop? So my kids were asking about this song. That's Just My Baby's Daddy.
Yeah.
Remember that song?
Yeah, I
okay.
remember.
It was a joke song. It was a hit.
It was
went platinum. Okay. Yeah. How come no one makes songs like that anymore? How come we don't have like jokey hip hop no more? Hip hop's not fun anymore.
Well,
everyone's depressed and popping pills. And
before we go on another tangent, because we've already went over like a million minutes, but I just think hip hop plays it safe these days. And when I say hip hop, I mean the labels play it safe. Like, dog, outside of a couple. Hey, here's Jamal, old grumpy man. Everything sounds the same.
Everything sounds.
When I say everything sounds the same, there's like not a bunch of different subcultures of hip hop anymore. If that makes
true,
sense.
You're right.
There's just not.
There used to be a lot of because even though you had gangster rap, you had conscious rap, you had backpacker rap.
You could look at episode Rap City, and you can see NWA, Public Enemy, Tribe Called Quest, Redhead Kingpin,
wow, yeah,
Chub Rock on the same episode. You had dance hip hop, you had fun hip hop, you had gangster stuff, you had conscious stuff, you had all these different flavors. And I just don't these days. There's just not a bunch of different flavors these days.
Well, it's because.
I'm telling you, people are playing it safe, and it's becoming more formulaic. It's more formulaic than it's ever been.
It's easier to make music now. Everyone raps, music. Right? Everyone can rap.
But that takes away from the substance and the depth of doing it.
But that's just
how it is.
How it is. Yep. Two old men yelling at the clouds.
Me and Kaiser, we're gonna cut a diss record. I don't know who we're gonna diss, but we're just gonna.
First of all, we got to diss somebody. Way
younger.
Yeah, like somebody like 14, like Lil Tay or somebody. I don't know. Whoever these rappers are. And we're gonna rap like it's 92. First of all, I mean, why would you rap like you still rapped back in the day?
That's the only way you know how.
You could at least try.
Kaza, let's not act like this dude is releasing albums every year. Let's be clear. I don't know a Melly Mel album that came out in the 90s. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, I let's see. We have The Message and White Lines. That's my Melly Mel discography.
That's
right
all
there.
we need.
That's all you need. Two classics.
Anything else, man?
Melly Mel, just man.
All right, we're gonna have to have a hip hop culture.
Yeah, we might have to do like a whole show just based on on that, because there's a lot to talk about. But happy 50th. The 50th, there was a bunch of 50th concert, 50th. It was really great. Yep. And just happy 50th. All you guys who love hip hop culture, just listen to what you want to listen to, right? I'm at this point now. We were talking about this before the show, before we went on air. I don't even listen to that much hip hop anymore unless it's something, from the crates. Like, I'm gonna listen to this. So but
Ice Cube said it best, man. Hip hop is a young man's game. It really
is. And I am totally okay with that.
Yeah. So
go forth, young people, and evolve the culture.
I just challenge the people who are making this music, man. The number one, study history, because it does matter. Like studying your history, it gives you depth. It does. It gives you a foundation. You know what I'm saying?
To use that Herbie Hancock, Duke Ellington example again, you think Herbie Hancock didn't know how to play every single Duke Ellington jazz standard ever? That's why he's Herbie Hancock.
Right.
So you think Nas doesn't know every Melly Mel or MC Shan lyric? That's why he's Nas.
It came from somewhere.
Right. Yep. So, yeah. All right. Our break is over, so you're gonna see us weekly.
Yeah, we're back for real.
We just had to take a summer break because there's summertime in the QC. No so yeah, hopefully the Panthers will look better next week. Maybe the Hornets will
bring back PJ. Maybe
I don't know what the Hornets are doing. Trying to pay back that hedge fund money.
They probably got some stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yep. So, but we'll see y'all next week. Y'all take care. Have a great week. We love y'all. Peace. Take care of each other.
Peace.